for the life of me understand what's going on right now. So I'm gonna try this one more time. I changed my internet settings. I'm hoping everything is okay now. Let's try to get this thing. All right. Let me just make sure I'm watching on my phone now as well. Okay, well, that's clearly my voice. That I wanted to hear that. All right, I'm gonna try this once again. I'm really thinking. I hope you understand that I am just as annoyed about this as all of you are. I just don't understand why this it's not working very well. But I see I've got a viewer in here. I cannot see the chat, which is unfortunate. I know you're seeing me in like a interesting way over there. All right. So this is saying I'm live. I'm going to leave it up next to me so that I can view the chat. But can't do much about it. All right. So hoping someone's in here and that you can watch it with me. Sweet. All right. Well, I'm going to get back to the kick. We're just getting so close too. All right. Okay. Let's get a bell. Not going to do much with the expanders or anything like that, but I just got a quick EQ on it. Hoping this is still live. If you can hear me and you can hear the kick drum, then let me know. I'm just gonna blast through some stuff that I know I like on a kick drum. So what did I do? Solo the bus. All right, I just want to solo the kick. Kind of plasticky, but I'm gonna go through all this and it'll add up. So I love this plugin. It's a compressor. You can use any compressor, truly, if you want. It's a little too much. I just like to kiss it with compression a little bit. I just like the way that it sounds. Cool. So let's see. What else do I do? Let's get an EQ on that, because there's some mid stuff that I don't like. So I added a lot of low end there. All right. That's kind of weird and ringy. Some weird stuff going on in this area. So that'll be okay for now. Gotta tame that low end a little bit. Let's go back to the first EQ. I added quite a bit. Also, there's a little bit that I can do in the contact window as well. Just bring down the sub-kick microphone. So it's not a bad start. I also like to do one more thing, particularly because this is you know, death metal style. it's very hard for the kick to kind of get lost. Both the kick and the snare are going to have the same treatment, essentially. I'm going to do a little bit of attack from a transient designer to really accentuate the clickiness of it without boosting the high end too much, because you don't want it to be too clicky the whole time. Alright, but we've got that. Let's get our snare. So I don't really know what snare was sought after. Oh, I forgot to do a clipper. I'm just gonna do a very light clipper. I don't know what snare was sought after on the reference. I know a lot of people do like the really pingy snares. I'm not really about the pingy snares. I'm typically about low tuned snares, but I didn't want it to be too low tuned for this song, so like a Brady Blackwood, I think. That's what I used. So I'm gonna do the same exact thing. Get some, it's not the waves one, but get some high end to the snare. I love to get like this like 1K snap to it. That kind of like, it sounds weird on its own, but when everything else is boosted, that's cool. Let's get more snare action. Let's go over here. Cool. I just want a little bit of body. More of it will come out later when I start adding compression. Same thing, I'm just going to do smash and grab because I really like the plugin. Let's add some beef. I like the extreme setting. Okay. So now, same thing. We're gonna go to the EQ because I hear something that's kind of weird. It's ringing. Let's go to the blast beat again. So even in like a brutal slamming death metal style, when like they usually go for like that. Just ring in the 500 area, not this 300 area that I don't really like. Just muddies it up. Okay. I'm gonna take it out so okay. So let's get some transients on that. Let's get rid of the vocals for a second. Okay, that works. And let's just clip that so that it's not too pokey. I like to kind of smash the snare down a decent bit. One more thing I'm going to do to this, I don't know, I've been loving the Plugin Alliance stuff. I don't know if any other producers are in here, people that mix, but I did the bundle for that, and honestly, I don't know how I went so long not getting it, because it's just, all these tools are just so good. If you really saturate the snare, you'll get some of that ring out, like, it'll bring it out, which is kind of cool. I'm going to smash some of the transient down while bringing out that weird tail, which is kind of cool. I'm going to keep it kind of in parallel. Let's go back to that like blast. I like that. Cool. So I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to do some really quick like overhead treatment, and I'll do the toms as well, but then I'm gonna get to the guitar tone because it's kind of weird dealing without this like the guitars or anything, but I want to make sure I got a pretty good drum mix because that's what's going to help me get everything else kind of in order. Kind of like the 1K. So I am not going to high pass my overheads very much. I've been doing this a lot lately where I keep some of that thumpiness in the overheads. I bring down the amount that the kicks and snares are in the overhead, but I don't take them out because I don't know. It adds a little bit of glue when it's in the overhead, as opposed to when I lump in the overhead spots into the close mics. I like to keep them separate, but you know, it just humanizes it a little bit in my mind. I will take out like the 500 stuff because I don't want this to be. But yeah, I mean, it's not bad so far. Let's see. My room mics. Alright, I'm just making this sound a little more bright. It's not going to be too loud in the mix anyway, so I kind of like to just add in that little bit of sheen. Cool. Alright. And I'm just going to make sure that pretty much doesn't have any transients. Cool. Let's do something very similar. What's up, Baron? Alright. Let's do the same thing to this bad boy. Little funky low end in that one. Something weird. Cool. That kind of fixes that. I'm going to do something very similar, so I'm just going to copy that over. Cool. I'm going to gain that far mic up, just because I like the sound of that. Alright, so we've got a decent drum mix so far. There are only 4 toms in this song. So I believe I use these 4. So I'm just going to do something really quick. I'll go back and fix it later, but I kind of want to move on while I'm in the spirit. Let's see. So I'm going to just quickly move some things around the way that I know that these toms kind of sound, and not get too crazy with it, and I will fix it later. And if I don't, then you can yell at me and say, Tim, you really should have done it when you were working on drums. But I'm getting kind of antsy, and I want to work on other stuff, so I take the blame, I suppose, for my own actions here. Let me find a spot with toms. There is a spot where there's a bunch of toms, right? How did I solo just the room snare? The snare bed? There we go. Not now. Not now. That would be maddening if that went on for like the entire time, right? Alright. So I'm just gonna get the 2 rack toms to sound pretty similar. there's one thing I forgot. I like to gate them a little bit. Just a little bit. Cool. Just don't want that to last too long because that would be problematic with everything else. Alright, and then the floor toms were, let's see, let's find a spot with floor toms. There's only the one floor tom, I want both of them. Beginning. Okay, this is good enough for now. How's everyone doing with this whole quarantine thing? I noticed that there's not very many comments. Okay, that's good enough for now. Are you guys going stir crazy? Is that why you're watching me mix right now? Let's clip all these just because I want to keep them kind of back in the mix. Okay, so pretty much all I've been doing is leveling out the drums and making them kind of sound the way that I like them, clipping everything, even the overheads, because the snare is probably going to jump out of that. You know what? I am so sorry to hear that. Hual, I'm gonna assume that that's your actual birth name. Honestly, I feel like quarantine's actually been kind of nice for me because I've been able to do this a lot. Cool. Oh, why do I say that? Alright, so I'm happy with the drum mix for now. Let's see. Let's get a guitar tone and a bass tone going, right? Because you guys don't want to be listening to this anymore. I mean, I kind of like it, but alright. So I'm just going to do immediately what I've been doing, essentially, like, for the past... So I do this to a lot of DIs before I do anything, and I'm not going to explain it at all. I know that's why you guys came here, but... Okay. Cool. Alright. Stuff. I know that seems kind of nonsensical, but if anybody is in URM with me, then you'll know where I'm going with that, because I'm using my love. Because honestly, I don't have to do anything. You know, I'm not even going to touch any knobs. Let's just listen to that guitar tone, the one tone in mono. Let's get some more gain on it. All right, so now that I got a tone on it, I will actually explain what I was doing before. I know it was kind of unfair to be like, haha, you don't get to know. But it was a trick that I was picking up from Buster in the Nail the Mix. So the reason I EQ'd the DI is because, let's say I take that away. And I really like the tone, but I want the low end to pop out more. I want more sustain on the low end after the amp, which is what I just did. So this is an EQ after the amp. If I want that low end and I boost it, it brings out all this boomy. It's kind of weird. It's weird, the low end that gets added. But if I do it before the amp, let's say I don't have any of this other crap, I just do the boost at the low end. I boosted it by 24 dB, and it's not bringing in that weird woomph noise, it's just adding sustain, because what's happening is the low end is not getting added to the sound, it's getting added to the DI that's getting processed. And the way that the amp works, there's already a high pass built in, so it's not really going to get all this stuff that looks kind of weird and not part of the guitar sound anyway. But what it is doing is that ending, see how that's slow to go down? And let's say I go to that like exact same part. So this is like the sustain when that part is being held out. By boosting that, I'm allowing that low end to kind of remain there longer before the amp, so the amp can pick it up. So then I don't have to do this weird, like, woomphy noise. It just stays right in the pocket, which is great. That was the whole, Buster trick. But yeah, so I did this because he also added some of that, like, djenty kind of, and tamed some of this. It's good stuff. All right. But I'm just going to start messing with this tone a little bit. Get it to a point where I like it. I don't usually like that much. There's like this weird clicky thing going on. What is it, like the dry sound? It's kind of weird. Trying to figure out what the hell is. Alright, I don't hear the clicky thing anymore that was bothering me. But... So yeah, there's a lot of low end going on right now. I'm okay with that because I'm going to fix that with a parallel compressor. Thank you, Algin, for taking notes. Alright, but I can't take credit for all that, so don't worry about it. Okay, so I'm going to copy that tone over to the other side. So now we've got two panned guitar tones. I'm okay with that. I want to make sure that the bass gets locked in with that. I like it, but it's also kind of soft. It's not going to have like clankiness that I like, but that's also because I'm usually doing like slower music that isn't quite as chuggy. Nah, I'm not going to do that. All right, so I love Parallax. I love Neural all around, but to protect me and everyone right now, I need to make sure that Parallax doesn't explode, which it actually weirdly does sometimes. And nobody believes me when I say it does, because this plugin is like new and it's great, but like I have to load it and let it sit for like 5 minutes. Not 5 minutes, I'm not gonna wait that long. But like if I do it too fast, sometimes it'll just peak at plus 300 decibels. I'm not kidding, it'll actually say plus 300 decibels on the little meter, and it's terrifying. So I think I let it sit long enough. I don't think it's going to do that. And I put a limiter on it anyway, so it can't go louder than like negative 30. So you won't hear it at first. And that's good. Thank God. All right, we're good. Everybody, was a false alarm. We're all good. All right, let's get the limiter back up. I love Parallax, but it just scares me sometimes. Hey, Emily. I hope you enjoy the show. If nobody knows what Parallax is, it's literally just a bass amp, but it is a multi-band. It's a multi-band amp in the way that the low end is just compression. It leaves it dry. There's no drive on it at all. The mid band is fixed, and you can do distortion on the mid band only. So for this, I'm going to leave the mid kind of there. And the high distortion is variable, so I can do a high pass at 100 and distort everything above that to a certain degree. So let's go to a more sustained part. So that's kind of cool. I like Parallax, but it just, like I said, scares the ever-loving daylights out of me. Because I already have the low-end compression that I want, I'm just going to limit it. Also, that's a super scratchy tone. I might have to fix that. Oh yeah, that would be why I left it at 1. Because I was just showing you guys. Yeah, this tool is really cool. I enjoy it. So I kind of like... Alright, something's weird. That helps. All right. For those of you that are joining and didn't see before, this is the band Bloodsoaked. I have their information in this little notepad. All of their information is at the bottom, the Bloodsoaked Facebook, Bloodsoaked Bandcamp. Thank you, Peter, for letting me mess around with this, because this is fun. So now that we've kind of messed around with all my stuff going on, let's just revisit the reference mix really quick so I can see where I'm at. So I've got a lot of low end going on, but I like that. So I'm gonna leave it for now. So I don't have any mastering chain on right now, which is probably a mistake. I'm gonna start getting a little bit of that going because I'm going pretty hard into this. Let us gain match everything really quick. I have like no bus compression on anything yet. So let's start with drums. Okay. That's better. So I'm not clipping anything. So let's get a bus compressor. I honestly I love this one, so let's leave it on tight. Let's get this threshold not so low. Okay. Keeps everything tight. I like it. Let's get a clipper on really quick, just in case it doesn't catch some of those transients. I want to keep them kind of tame. Yeah, like that one. That one popped out like 3 decibels for like no reason, seemingly. Alright, so that keeps it under control. I'm not going to do anything else because I have one other thing that I wanted to do earlier. I have the drums duplicated, so now it's super freaking loud. What I was going to do, so there's this free plugin called Pulsar Smasher. I don't remember when I got this. It was recently, and I don't know if it's still free. It may or may not be. But it's interesting because it's just a fixed ratio compressor, but it's fixed at like 1000%. All it does is smash, and you can't really do anything else with it, which is amazing sometimes. So, like, that's all it does. You can't change that. You can change how much it mixes in, but you can't change anything else about it. Which I love because what I can do is let it just do that. Let it just sit in the background a little bit. Let's save it for this part. Just adding a little bit more of a smack to everything. I kind of like it. I don't like it all the time, but in something kind of heavy and crazy like this, why not? Alright. So let's see, other bus kind of stuff. So my drums are kind of set for right now. I'm going to ignore them. My guitar bus. So time to deal with that low end like I said I was going to, right? So I have Wave C6, any multiband compressor will do. I like to have a visual while I do this. Okay, that works. I wish I had Saturn. For anybody who watched the Buster thing. Oh my god. Because his technique to adding mids I want to use right now, but I can't. So I'm going to, right in front of your very eyes, try to fake the Buster trick in a weird way. Alright, so I'll explain it in a second. I don't really know if it's going to work, so I will wait to explain until I realize if it's alright. Alright. I'm kidding. I mean, I have done something similar before. This is kind of convoluted for no reason. I just feel like doing it. I don't know what I'm looking for. Plugin alliance. There we go. I just like this one. It's cool. It's funny. It like became its own amp for a second. Sounds weird. However, what I'm going to do is blend that in. So that works for now. Now let's get the guitar under control. As Joel Monasek would say, I'm just treating this with absolutely no respect. Not moving at all, and I'm fine with that. I'm clipping the hell out of everything right now. Yeah, I'm going like plus 3 decibels over. So I have to calm things down here. Alright, let me turn things down by at least 3 decibels each. I've got my bass that needs to go down like 3 decibels. I'm just getting too into the vibe of it being crushed that I'm like, yeah, it's fine. Just crush it, you know? So let's turn this down like 5 because this has been This has to go down too, for like 3. Cool. So let's double check where we were at. Okay. All right. Well, getting somewhere. I'm just going to throw on a faux mastering chain really quick so I can continue mixing. At this point, I have some stuff going. I don't know if I really like it. I've also been in the headphones the whole time, and, you know, what ends up happening to me a lot is I will get so far into it, and then I will start making decisions because I've just been working on it for so long that I don't actually agree with, because I don't know where I am anymore, essentially. Like, I just kind of lose my focus. So I'm going to put on some stuff that I know I like while my ears rest. And I'm not really going to check it very much until I'm ready to get back into it. And I'm like back to square one. I'm using a lot of Plugin Alliance stuff because once I got the membership, I was like, well, now I have to use it. First of all, because I paid for it. But second of all, I do really like their stuff. Good stuff, as well as the neural stuff. Like, once I got it, I was happy. So I'm gonna put on certain settings that seem like they'll probably work. I don't know what that is. Let's do this. Let's get on isotope. Let's get true peak mode going. Let's keep it down. Makeup gain. Cut that out. Yeah, so what I was going for, without listening to it at all, because I wasn't listening to it specifically, because I wasn't listening to it, I chose to have the compressor just kiss it down a little bit, only because if I go too much, then I'm mixing into it, and I'm assuming that everything else has enough compression, which is why I didn't have it at all, and it sounded still even. Like, things aren't jumping out and back and forth. So adding this, maybe like that, you know, just to have the needle start moving. What it's doing is it's just kind of gluing everything in. I don't really need it to be moving like this. Because I think I've got some movement going on, and then I also want to limit those peaks down as well. So, like, you know, I'm happy with somewhat the way that things are going with the mix right now. What I typically do at this point, you know what? I'll do it in the DAW. First things first, I don't know. I'm really into the Plugin Alliance stuff. You can do this with other things. It doesn't have to be Plugin Alliance. It's just like I bought it, so now I'm rationalizing the fact that I bought it by using plugins that do it. But like this is just an EQ. Like you don't need to do crazy stuff. It's just a high shelf and a low shelf. But I want to use like Isotope, and I wanted to use this dangerous EQ because I think it sounds good and I like it. Do you need to? No. I just like using it because it's kind of subtle. And one last thing that I do sometimes, I may do it to this mix because it's death metal and it's bitchin', is just throw on Decapitator as if it was like a preamp or something and let the mix distort. So the reason I would do this, and you could do it with anything, but I kind of feel like doing it because a lot of these things, like crazy death metal stuff, like old school kind of stuff, might run through like a tube or something. Doesn't have to sound like that, but but it could have a little bit of that character, right? Like it could be. You might think that that's too clean, so. Kind of add a little bit of that like blown out sound. I'll keep it for now. I think it's kind of cool. It fits the style. Something about that snare is bothering the hell out of me. Might be. It's a little too much mids. I'll leave everything like that as it is. I might just do. If there's any snare during this part. Good. You know, that peak is kind of sharp. All right, so I'm just getting a good static mix on the first. I think there's like 3 songs in here. It all looks like one song, but I looked up the EP before, and it looks like all these are actually 3 different songs. So I've been working on the first one, but there's like... I also haven't even brought in the vocals, because honestly I don't think I'm going to have to touch them very much, so I want them to just like kind of lay on top. Oh yeah, I remember listening to this before. The vocals in that part are nasty. So I'm okay with what I've got so far. I'm going to start adding in vocals now because I don't think I'm going to have to do much. Immediately, I'm going to put on some plugins on the whole bus that I know I like. I'm not going to want to saturate this because it sounds... well saturated. Before I do that, I'm glad that I have Waves, Vocal Rider. Do that. Set this limit. I mean, the vocals sound fine as is. I may do some light EQ, but I kind of like the way they sound, so I'm not really going to do a whole hell of a lot. So, these sound great. I may add some body, but I will do that with another plugin alliance thing because I just like them. And I am trying to rationalize spending money during the quarantine. However, all this stuff can just be done with literally anything, in case anybody is like freaked out that I keep grabbing these things. You don't need to, I'm just choosing to for no real apparent reason. He's got a little bit of that, that like voicey stuff that as a vocalist I get it. Like you need it in the scream and you barely even notice it when you're doing it, then you do it into a mic and you're like, and you hear that like and I hate it, but in the mix you never even hear it. But I like to take care of it when I'm listening to it in solo, so I know what it is that I'm hearing when they kind of reach for that extra pattern. I just saw the comment, those vocals, and yeah, the fact that they're mostly single tracked, it's really like, let me get rid of the mixer. Like, it's just like this one track. They're pretty insane. Like, because I haven't really touched anything yet, I'm just gonna go to the part that kind of made me laugh with how heavy it was before. I love that. It's great. So those I'm gonna do something to. I'm gonna do it lightly because they're definitely still affected, and I don't want it to be like crazy. As I just keep doing it at like full volume, I'll do it like 30%, just a little bit of like. Oh, like 70% actually. I kind of like the way they sound when they're a little distorted. But yeah, I pan those left and right because this is up the center, so it kind of makes it like it feels like it's blowing out. Yeah, so it just feels like it's all around you when that song comes in. Which is kind of cool. When I pan vocals left and right like this, I typically put a reverb on both of them. I'll do like a stock reverb because the stock reverb in Logic is amazing. I'll do something like nice hall. Nice hall for a nice pleasant vocal, you know? I just like the idea of a nice hall. Like this guy is just standing in a nice hall. Alright. What I also do to these is I typically add some delay, because what it ends up sounding like is like someone is kind of far away doing the same thing as the main line. I will keep it dry, but I don't want it to be... you know, just to give it a little bit of like a standing on a mountain kind of thing. Because that's why, you know, that's why I'm panning it in the first place, is to make it sound huge. So, might as well do it, right? Cool. So now the vocals are getting kind of loud. I'm gonna add a little bit of S's, and I'm gonna take them away, which sounds kind of nonsensical, but you'll see why. Let's do a stereo. Yeah. So I wanted to add some high end to get the shimmer when he's doing gutturals, but I don't want it to poke out during the S's, so obviously it is de-esser comes into play. Just have to be careful not to give him a lisp. It's actually a good line to do this too. Yeah, because I want the demise to sound shimmery, but don't want it to get too like muddied up, and I don't want it to get hit by this, but I do want the S at the end to be hit, so. Alright, whatever I did before with that low shelf is a little much. So I'm okay with that for right now. I'm just going to do one last thing, get some reverb over the whole bus so that everything kind of feels in the same room. And while I do that, just take it off my ears for a second. I love M50Xs, but they are a little hot. I don't know how I feel about... Oh, that's why the pre-delay is like huge on that. Short reverb, nothing too crazy. So now that I've got the full mix kind of built, now I have to deconstruct some parts really quick so that I can make sure that everything is punching right the way that I want it to. So the problem with this is, here, let me pull up the right plugin for it, and then we'll actually explain what's going on. So where is it? Plugin Alliance, of course. Metric AB. So this plugin's amazing for a lot of reasons, but my favorite reason is that it just gives me an idea of what's actually going on in every part of the song for everything. So if I just click on any section, I can definitely tell that this mix is probably going to be a little darker than some other mixes that I'm used to. What I can do with Metric AB, which is great, is I can just drop in a few songs if I wanted to, and compare really quickly by just clicking AB. I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a second. I'm just going to listen to something on Spotify that I like. You probably can't hear this, but I love Will Putney's mixes. They all just translate so well for me. So obviously, you know, just typing in like Knocked Loose and just take a few listens. Cool. So honestly, just doing that for like a few seconds gave me a lot of perspective over what I was trying to do. So if you don't already do that when you're mixing, like, I highly encourage doing that, because it's so much more eye-opening than you could even imagine. Just like taking a step back from your own mix and just listening to what other people, you know, do with their mix, and you're like, holy crap. So what I realized is, when I was listening to some of the references, like Analepsy, like Abominable Patronity, it was all, you know, not very muddy in the mid-range. So like the bass might not sound like this, it might sound like... However, all this stuff, it's pretty loud. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reevaluate my balance with some of this stuff. And make sure that I've got the guitar and the bass what I'm doing right now is just revisiting my kick drum moves that I made without any context because I didn't even have my tones built yet. And I'm just making sure that they still work. So what's happening on the rolls is I hear a lot of like low end hubbub that I don't really need, particularly when it goes really fast. And I was missing out on some of the attack that I liked before, but I don't want to reintroduce too much because then it gets kind of hissy and clicky. So I've got that, but what I'm going to do is there's a few different things that I could do. I could just automate, which I'm thinking about doing, but what I'm going to do is try to get it good in a static. Try to get it good in a static mix. Yeah, that's okay for right now. Yeah, I want to make sure I still get that thumpy kick. You know what? I'm going to break out the big guns, and I'm just going to do something really quick that typically ends up just being like the easiest way to do this. Track spacer, cheat mode. Done. For anybody who doesn't know what track spacer is, just buy it. It's it does what it literally says. It makes track space for your tracks. And I could do the same thing with my snare. I did my bussing already, so sorry if this is like super confusing. Essentially what I do is I have my kick sent to a blank channel, and I just make it so that you can't hear it. So this is my kick right now, sent to nothing. What I can do is in Logic, I can have side chains read. The Waves Factory track spacer does it automatically, where it just reads, it's a 32 band EQ that just reads whatever is coming into it, and then it ducks the track that it's on in those frequencies. So what I can do is my snare is into bus 31, so if I just go to the guitar bus, so that's my snare when it hits. What I could do is just turn that all the way up. Not all the way. Screw it all the way. So it'll take out equally as much as the snare actually just sounds like. So whatever the snare sounds like, it's just going to duck all of that from the guitars. So that's at 100%. This is at like 40. So like obviously it's ridiculous, right? However, when you do it at like 0%, and you go up just a little bit, it just adds a little bit of space for that snare snap, which is, you know, all that we really need. Same thing with the low end, you know, with the bass and kick, the infamous bass and kick relationship. I want to keep my real low end intact when I do things like that, but it's a really good tactic. Track spacer was a good investment. Alright, cool. So one last time, let's listen to our reference. So I definitely noticed that I'm missing a lot of that bite that the reference track has, so no shame, just add it in. Cool. So yeah, this is mostly done. I can definitely tell that I'm missing out on some of the teeth of the original mix, but I can get some of that back by just, you know, doing some mastering changes right in like the 3K area. So I already feel good about that move, because I didn't want to do it just with the guitars, because I don't want to bring out any hiss. But if I bring out everything, like the rooms and the vocals and everything at 3K, I'm not going to mind it too much. There was a hiss in the guitar, actually, now that I come to think of it. 4K, man. Last listen to our reference. Okay. Keep my mastering chain on this time. I realized that was something I was messing up before. Cool. So I had some people sticking around for mostly the whole time, but yeah, I don't really have much else to do with this mix. Does anybody want to see anything in particular or want to hear anything in particular? I'm about to bounce this mix. You know, you gotta always go through the car test and you know, check it out everywhere else except for your headphones, because every single time you bring it to the car, you're like, I hate everything about this. Why did I mix anything? You know. But yeah, I mean, I'm at a point right now where I would just say, you know what, I'm pretty much done. I'm making a bunch of small moves that I don't need to do anymore, and honestly, that's the hardest thing to step away from, is when you just keep making moves and you don't know when to stop. So, does anybody have any questions or anything? Or comments or concerns? I see the low end balance thing. I didn't even get to show it yet. What I really like about this plugin is that you can just listen to the bands that you want. That's not true. What's going on there? Oh, you guys didn't even get to hear this. What the hell? I just realized it wasn't even bussed the way that I need it to be for you guys to hear it. So you guys have been missing out on guitar grit. So you guys didn't hear that at all, did you? That's really funny. That wasn't even going to the mastering chain. That was just going to my headphones. All right, so let me know if you even heard that, because that's really funny. So that trick went completely unnoticed. All right, so now that you guys can probably hear it, I had this guitar part isolated. I sent the guitar to a bus and just distorted the mid frequencies and then bled it back into the regular guitar. To give it that nice mid-range. I can't believe I didn't route that correctly. All right. Well, streaming has its own set of challenges, but now I hope you guys were able to hear what I was trying to do with that, and the mix does sound a little bit more full with that, doesn't it? Yeah, that's a lot better. I'm missing out on some of that snare snap that I always like. Cool. So now if this were a mix that, let's say I was being paid to do, I would probably go in and do some automation stuff. You know, maybe like during certain parts, like let's go through one random part. Yeah. So let's say like that part, you know, where things kind of get crazy. I may this track I didn't even do anything with, but it's nice to have in the background. It's just a snare verb, essentially. So what I would do maybe is, let's see, during that part, maybe just bring this part up. I didn't do it just because I didn't really feel the need, but during parts like this, maybe I'd bring it down even more. And then once it goes to this part, kind of bring it up. So that now when this part's happening, you have more of a snare tail. Just little things like that, but I'm not going to do that today only because that's kind of detail work. And it would also take out the punch of the snare, then I'd have to go back and automate other things. Same thing with you know, like bass drops and things like that, reverse kicks or reverb kicks and things like that. I could do them, but I also want to keep to a simple style because some people, when they're doing like the more brutal death metal kind of music, they don't really want to have a lot of the extra stuff like risers. They don't want reverse cymbals going into this part, you know, like they just want it to start. They want it to be blistering, so just leave it. You know, so in an effort to not taint how the brutality and the raw energy of this, I'm not gonna mess with it. But yeah, So, cool. Well, I'll probably just render this. I'll send it to you, Peter. Thanks for letting me do this. And once again, this was the band Bloodsoaked. Um, I have their stuff up in this little notepad. I just found out about this like a week ago after using Logic for like 2 years. So, um, yeah, be sure to check out the bands. Why does my mouse not work? On Bandcamp and Facebook. That just blew it out. So that didn't help you at all. Try to figure out who it was. But the links are right there. Yeah, so this was fun. I'll definitely do it again. Um, for anybody who follows me on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or Snapchat or Venmo, I don't care what you follow me on. Um, if you got any multi-tracks and you want me to mix them and do stuff to them, particularly on live, like this is my first time doing, so thank you to all 4 of you that seem to be here. If you want me to do that, then just message me. I'm glad to work with any of the tracks. The next time I do this, I'm probably not going to do brutal death metal. I'll probably do something like I don't know, find pop punk or something. Uh, but yeah, this was fun. I'm gonna bounce this and send it to Peter. Thanks for tuning in. Let's go to my main thing here. Hey, yeah, now I can see the comments. All right, cool. Well, thanks guys.